This is a very small alleyway, and we did a renovation on our house a few years ago, and I had the opportunity to create a garage space workshop. My name is Brett, and welcome to my shed tour. The shed is around about 3.2 metres wide by 9 metres long, 30 square metres or 100 foot squared. It houses my project car, also my motorcycle, and over here is my workbench. Let me show you around. The plan was always to be as efficient with the space as possible, so I always wanted to have overhead storage, and you can't do that with a bifold door, so it needed to be a roller door. And the maximum width of the roller door that I could use was 5.5 metres. This allowed me to parallel park my car in here, which you can see over here. Can you guess what this is? This has allowed me to have as much space as possible. I really wanted to enjoy the space while I'm in here, so I planted a lot of vines and ferns, really to soften up the area, make it a nice place to be. I also put in this green wall to soften the laneway, really, just to make it a little bit greener, more than just some cobblestones. These are felt pouches that I've filled with succulents and then put a little irrigation system right across the top. And they drip down, one pouch drips down to the other, and that irrigation then I ran underneath the cobblestones. The heart of the workshop is the workbench. This is well over 100 years old, an antique, all coach bolted together. I think it's probably red gum. It's certainly a hardwood. I'm not exactly sure what species it is. Hard to tell. A little bit of linseed oil goes a long way. As you can see, it comes up really nice. It's actually a pleasure to work on. I try to make my shed a nice place to be, as I was saying with the greenery. I also like to have lots of these little cubbies around for small things, salvaged as much materials as possible. That makes me feel nice to know that things are being reused. My pegboard has got most of my frequently used tools, hand tools, hammers, some machine tools, the usual stuff really. I do a little bit of woodworking, but mostly just handyman, fettling, just tinkering, those sorts of things. My grandfather also made this small chest of drawers. I remember it as a young boy, seeing it in his shed. And when he passed away, a lot of his tools I inherited, including this, which nobody seemed to want, but I thought was charming. He'd handwritten all of these labels on all of his tools and the drawers. I removed all of the labels and I scanned them all. And I was able to pick out each of the letters and make an entire alphabet from all the labels that he'd written, and then create a font. And so now whenever I need to label any of my drawers or absolutely anything in my garage, I use his font, which is his handwriting, to label those areas. That makes me feel really nice that a part of him is living on. Just above it is my computer and a screen that I use for if I need to do any research on Google, or if I want to watch some YouTube videos, instructional videos, those sorts of things. I needed to run an amp as well so that I could listen to some music out here. I found this magnetic phone mount, so you can just put your phone up there and plug straight in, which is quite handy. One of the things that I like doing is playing with computers as well, and with an old Bakelite switch I hooked up some power to drive both an old laptop that I've found, an amp that gets turned on, and a monitor, and this will boot up my computer and start playing my favourite radio station, my local favourite radio station, and it's kind of fun. To control the laptop, I have a wireless keyboard that I have put in on a sliding drawer here. This was from an IKEA drawer or something like that. Wasn't being used. Fits the wireless keyboard perfectly, with the little trackpad as well, which is very handy. And then when I'm finished with the computer, I just pull on the, the light switch and the computer shuts down and it'll power off the laptop, the amp and the monitor. If you want to know more about that, let me know and I'll tell you about the programs and the hardware that I use to make all that happen. Underneath my workbench is where I store any timbers for working. It's just cheap timber, pine, and then I've got various hardwoods. I think my mother-in-law gave me this really handy little workshop stool. The vise on the bench. This is something that both my father and my grandfather used to do, was in the wood vise, you just clamp in the machine vise on top. Helps, you know, sort of make the space a bit more efficient to be used. My screwdrivers, these are fabulous screwdrivers. I've just got a handful of them. You really only need, you know, a couple of small Phillips and flathead screwdrivers and a couple of larger ones. You're all set. Some protective equipment, nice and handy to get to, nice and easy. Clothesline, because sometimes you do need to hang up some clothes and dry them in the garage when it's a rainy day. Moving along further, I love my DeWalt table saw. So for the cubby space, I can pull it out. I've made a cross-cut sled for it. Some of the other mods that I've done is these sort of, I'm not sure what these are called, but they're quick clamps rather than using the bolts that were on them. And I've also connected a shop vac to the power supply on the table saw. So it starts this shop vac, and then around the back here, I've connected the shop vac up to the dust extraction port on the table saw to cut down the sawdust. If you want to know more about that, I'll put a link in the descriptions, and I set up a instructable page on how I put this together. Moving around further, my palm is on wheels so that I can move it anywhere out of the way. We also have these kitchen cabinets that a neighbour had from her 1950s kitchen that was being renovated, and all of these cabinets were being thrown out. I think that they're very cool. I like the retro cabinetry. Bench grinder from my grandfather. These magnetic bowls, very handy. You chuck all your screws in there and they store there. This is a bathroom cabinet, just a cheap IKEA thing that we had, but it has heaps of little cubby space in here. Very handy for screws and fixings and what have you. One of the other features that I've added, or mods, this is an internet controlled roller door remote. It's just hooked up to the motor on the roller door. And then there's a sensor that we rigged up. These roller door remotes are usually for panel doors, and we rigged this up for the sensor to detect whether or not the roller door is open or closed, and you just use an app on your smartphone and you can open and close the roller door from wherever you are. Quite handy. I did make a short video on how I construct. I'll link to it in the description below as well. The laundry we decided as well to put outside in the garage. We had it in a previous house and we quite like the idea because the laundry is usually an untidy place and it just felt like it was a nice spot to be out in the garage. Also, I can use it as a place to wash up. We made a bifold door here. And then just a tiny little laundry, but there is a sink here for washing up, and one of the funky features we've got is this laundry chute that connects to a bathroom on the other side, and you can just toss your clothes in and everything's already here for the washing. More cabinetry here. I quite like these. These are my, I think, favourite kitchen cabinets from that same house that I mentioned earlier. These were handmade by the owner of the house, the previous owner of the house. I just love them. They're very charming. I found this wardrobe on the side of the road, actually. Once again, I'm able to label all of my bits and bobs in here. Various tools, hand planes. There's a 4, 5, and I think this is a 6. Nails, etc., etc. And I try to keep my electrical parts as tidy as I can. Various containers, etc. And then just general electrical bits and bobs. Easy to access things. On the other side I have motorcycle equipment, dust jackets, those sorts of things. More plants, all hooked up to an irrigation system that is, once again, computer controlled. I'll show you that a little bit later. There's also the outdoors fridge and chest freezer, really handy. My Japanese pool saws, Ryoba saw, they are excellent. I love them. There's like a hot knife through butter. We've got a collection of DIY manuals here, repair manuals. The old manuals are great. They give you lots of information on old parts like sash windows, those sorts of things. Some old tin drawers from my father's shed. This has spanners, various bits and pieces. Bakelite drawer with all the vintage Bakelite you need. Recovered from my grandfather's shop. A drawer full of hinges, recovered from my grandfather's workshop. These are just bookshelves. I found these quite handy because the garage is so narrow. I couldn't have very deep shelves. Bookshelves were perfect. Solvents, lubricants, some woodworking stuff, oils at the bottom, which I don't really need. The adhesives. Have you ever seen this hack? When you're finished with your adhesives, you can put a cling film around the top of it, and then with your caulking gun, push a small amount of the adhesive or whatever it is that you're using into the end, and then tape it off. That goes fairly hard and dries out. Everything in the nozzle stays fresh, doesn't dry out. And when you're ready, you can just pull that out and away you go. It's quite a good hack. Various clamps for woodworking, ropes, motorcycle car stuff, cleaning products, knickknacks, whatever. Some excellent work that my son did about my car. Oh, I've given away what it is now, haven't I? And then in here, various power tools in both of these. This was an old kitchen pantry, I believe. Once again, probably an IKEA one. Up top, still using as much space as possible. A drop saw, it doesn't get much use. I made these shelves. The excellent part about your garage is you can just hack away with whatever you want to do. I made these curved shelves to give me as much storage space as possible, paints, etc. And there's also more overhead storage around here for the ladders. This is an old vintage ladder. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that one yet, but it's very cool. And I also have my biltong drying box here. Biltong is like a South African beef jerky. It's cured using just radiant heat from a light bulb, actually. And you leave it curing for a week, and then you eat it. It's lovely stuff. Yes, there's various projects around here. Some furniture that I still need to repair. And then right around in this tight little spot here, this is my irrigation system that's just connected to a regular tap, actually. This uses a product made by an Australian company called Water.me. There's a control unit that's way over there, actually. This is the irrigation controller. It's just in a plastic takeaway container at the moment. That controls the solenoids so that you can have an internet control just via an app or the website, actually. You set up your times and you can irrigate your plants whenever you want. It's really handy. There's also a retractable hose reel, very efficient use of space. I like this, good for washing up the car in the laneway or the motorcycle. Thank you for joining me on my shed tour. That's pretty much everything I've got. I hope there was something in here that you found useful or might inspire you to do something similar in your shed. Thank you very much. Bye.